The Center for Procurement Excellence is a nonprofit member organization with a mission of educating, promoting, and advocating for better RFP processes. Join CPE today and make your RFPs faster and more transparent. Membership also includes discounts to all of our training and networking events. CPE hosts a variety of virtual and in-person networking and training events throughout the year. Visit our website to get signed up. CPE Speakers Bureau is available for your regional and national meetings and professional conferences. Contact us to learn more.
Welcome to Ask the RFP Doctor, CPE's monthly web series where we discuss the latest best practices in procurement and supply chain management.
Thanks again, everybody, for being here today. We're super excited to have another RFP Doctor session today. Today we're going to be talking about contracts and some different things related to that. Let me go ahead and pop up my slides here. As always, if you do have questions or comments, feel free to jump right in, throw in the chat box, and then we'll go through the presentation. And our first question today is from Robin is, will we have the presentation will be sent out? Yes, it will be posted on our website, actually, along with the recording on the CPE website, so you can get access to today's presentation along with all the other slides as well. And Brian has astutely pointed the link in the chat box, so be sure to check that out. We have several other topics on there too. Okay, so today we're going to talk about don't worry, the contract will save us. Perhaps you've thought about that yourself or seen that yourself, and we're going to talk about some things to think about with that and what does that really mean for that side. So we'll go through that. Again, my name is Jake Smithwick. I'm a professor at the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. Brian is a professor at the University of Kansas in Lawrence, and we both support CPE through a variety of different activities, and we're excited to be here today. So the first thing we'll do is go through the teaching moment. That'll take about 10 to 15 minutes about the contracts. We'll split them into our virtual peer groups. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then we'll have what we call open office hours at the end, just to chat, catch up, and answer any specific questions that you may have. So just a reminder of the different events. So far, we've had 4 RFP Doctor sessions so far. Those are all posted on the website. Today is the contract will save us. Next month, we'll talk about the value of debriefings, vendor debriefings. It's a very powerful tool, but often we don't do it effectively or just don't do it at all. So we'll talk about, as procurement, how can you do that more effectively? October will be large IT hardware buys. We'll actually have a guest speaker with us today as well. So it should be a really great event. So that he's a former chief procurement officer with the state of Alaska. So he should have some fantastic insights for us on that as well. So be sure to check out the recordings once we get those posted. Some new information, CPE's Speakers Bureau. Some of you I've sent an email out to about this. I just want to throw this out here. CPE has the ability to present at your regional or national events. So if you have an upcoming chapter, it's going to be a larger event, people are going to be there, reach out to us. We're glad to provide presentations. In fact, I think we already have 10 to 15 presentations set up over the next 6 to 8 months. So it's been really fantastic. I see a couple of you have already taken up the offer, Cheryl and some others. So be sure to take a look at that. Scan the QR code. That'll take you straight to the website. And let us know if you have any questions about that. Okay, so today's teaching moment. Don't worry, the contract will save us. That is a misnomer, and we're going to talk about what that means. So to kick things off here, this is a real story. I'm not fabricating any of this. I'm going to tell you kind of what happened here. I came home from work one day, and I have 3 kids, ages now at the time they were 9, 7, and 5. I came in the door, and they all brushed me and said, "Dad, have you seen a black lion before?" I thought, a black lion? No, I can't. They said, yeah, it's amazing, a black lion. It's incredible. And they showed me the pictures, and I thought it was on YouTube, where it's like one of those preview videos at the end of the thing. I thought, wow, I have never seen that before. That is really interesting. So I think as we have our discussion today, as we go through the RFP, the contract specifically, we're going to kind of learn about some things here that are a little bit different from our expectations, or perhaps different from what we kind of thought about, right? So I just thought that was kind of a funny story here to kind of introduce the fact that, I've never heard about this before. That seems a little bit different, right? So some questions here to kind of think about: what makes a project go well? Really think through about the last, 1 or 2 years where you've had really good projects. What has made them so well, made them go so well? An amazing RFP. You would think that based on CP and everything we talked about, we would say yes. And I would say it helps, but it's not like you say, well, we had the perfect RFP. That's why the project went so well. We don't say that, right? It certainly helps though. 100% accurate specifications and requirements. Does that make a great project? It would in La La Land, right? But that's impossible. We could spend 2 months, we could spend years putting together the perfect spec, and it would still never be perfect. Can't do it. How about getting a good deal on price? Does that make a project really good? It can help. I mean, I like saving money, but what about the total life cycle cost? See, I think at the end of the day here, when we think about projects that have gone really well, it's because of the people that are doing the work. It's all about the people that are assigned to do the work at the end of the day here. And if we agree that it's all about the people, then our procurement process should be focused on what? The people aspect of it. We don't say we had a great project because we have a great contract. We have a good project because of the people that are doing the work. And as we know here then, is just because something is written in the contract doesn't make it so, right? I mean, how often do you have a contract that says, well, it's okay to be late, or it's okay to have change orders, or it's okay not to do a good job? I mean, nobody has contracts that say that, right? And yet we have this all the time. The reason why we have litigation and lawyers and the judicial system for contract law is because contracts don't guarantee performance. They are a reactive tool here that when something does go south, we can then deal with that. So that's probably the biggest takeaway to think about today is that a contract is a reactive mechanism. It only comes into effect, or only you really have to think about it when you got problems. Instead, what we want to think about and how do we get around this whole thing is less reliance on getting a good quote contract and instead focus on hiring the right people, because when we have the right people, then it doesn't matter. So a very brief history lesson, Hammurabi, Code of Hammurabi, some of you may have heard about this before. This is from the Babylonian times. It's the earliest known example of a contract, earliest code of law. And essentially what this is when you do something wrong, here's what happens, right? If you build a house and the house falls in and kills somebody, then the contractor also gets killed, right? So it's pretty extreme, right? If the goods have been destroyed because the house is not made well, then you have to restore that material out of your own material. Now, this is, again, very, very old, thousands of years old, right? But this is an example of, here is what a contract does here. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, here are the penalties for that. Because at the end of the day here, nothing will make you work harder, longer, and stress more than hiring the wrong person, right? I think we can all agree to that. It's if you hire the wrong people, it's going to be problems. I mean, if you think about this, if you have problems on your project, you say, well, let's pull out the contract. Well, let's have a look here to see what you're actually supposed to do. I submit that if that's the idea, that if we have to go look at the contract to see who is supposed to do what, the project is already done. If we have to go back to the contract to see what we're actually supposed to be done in the first place, we've already got problems. Instead, what we're going to do here is minimize the chances of these things happening in the first place. So therefore, the answer then, as I said here, is hire and work with experts, right? It's not, I mean, obvious, right? We know that. Hire people that know what they're doing. But of course, it's not as simple as that sounds. So what I've seen some owners do before is they will try to spec out in detail. Here's what an expert looks like. Here's what they need to do. If we tell them everything they have to do and they follow those directions, then we have no worries, right? I mean, that's essentially why I've seen some owners that will really put a lot of time and effort into that. And I'm not saying that's not a bad thing to do here, but we can't solely rely on that, right? And here's what I mean by that. When we think about minimum standards or minimum requirements or minimum specifications, what that is, of course, is a minimum requirement, right? And if we have some sort of minimum, we'd of course like something above that here, but low performer. Which of these companies would be selected based on this diagram I'm showing here? I mean, we can talk about it. And I think the idea is like, well, can we agree that vendor 4 would never be hired in this case? I think at a minimum, normally what happens is say, well, yeah, vendor 4, contractor 4, they would never be hired because they don't meet our minimum requirement. But I say to you, though, is that how often do we have problems? How often do we have to go back and look at the contract, go back to legal and figure out what in the world we're going to do here? Because if somebody actually was able to meet our minimum requirements, then we wouldn't have these issues in the first place. So I think more often than not, though, the company that gets the job is the one who has the lowest price, whether or not they meet the minimum requirements. Now, I know, again, thinking back to our black line here, that may not jive with how we normally think about things, but consider the amount of litigation, different things that we've seen over the years. What we see here instead, though, is that the minimum requirements drives performance down, right? It drives performance down because if we meet the minimum, that's all we have to do here. And instead, if our sole reliance is on those minimum requirements, then that can create all sorts of issues with us. The reason why here is that we have two different groups that are looking at these minimums as very differently. So as an owner, we see these minimums as truly as a minimum. If I get something above that, that's fantastic. As a contractor, as a supplier of these services, that minimum is truly a maximum. If they provide something above and beyond what we asked for, what happens to profit? It goes down. They're less competitive on the project. Now, I'm not saying get rid of minimum requirements here, but we have to change our perception about what those actually convey to the industry. What they should convey, we should tell our industry partners that propose a solution based on what we've asked for. But we know that this may not be totally accurate. And that's another key lesson here learned today is that when you work with the industry, you want to focus on expertise. And if they have a different way to do something, we really want to hear about what their ideas are because they probably know how to do it better than we know how to specify it. Minimum requirements don't guarantee high performance. And this is a crazy example of this. This is actually a roof. It met all the requirements, but what they had done here is that when they set these requirements, they didn't actually verify in-field performance. So essentially what happened, it got really cold, this is in Wyoming, and the roof basically exploded, right? But this met all the minimums, right? So even if you do have these minimum requirements, it may not guarantee high performance. Here's some more examples. I'm going to talk about roofing just for a minute here, but here's some more examples of roofs. I mean, we may not be roofing experts, but I mean, does this look okay? How about all this ponding water? I mean, all sorts of issues here. In fact, on this particular building here, I don't know if you can see it here, but the roof is sliding off the building, right? So if you look here, the roof is actually sliding off. And so the way the facility managers fix this is they screwed some holes on the top. So what we say here is that they cut the grass and trim the roof. They actually trimmed off the edge of the roof and put it on top, and that's how they fixed it. This roof met all the minimum requirements. It's crazy, right? Now, how do we tie this back to the contract? Well, you might be thinking, well, that's fine, but hey, we have this warranty. This warranty will protect us. If we got problems, pull out the warranty, pull out the contract, problems will be fixed, right? The question about warranties, though, is think about this. Who issues a warranty? And whether this is construction, roofing, IT, whatever, who at the end of the day actually writes that warranty document? It's written by a lawyer. And if it's written by the lawyer, who does the lawyer protect? The lawyer is going to protect the people that hire them in the first place. So if you have a manufacturer or supplier hiring a lawyer to write the warranty, who's that warranty designed to protect? I'll tell you what, it's not you as a buyer. It's meant to protect the manufacturer or the supplier of those services. What it does, it limits their liability. So we can rely on a warranty to guarantee that high performance. And let's say, if you do get a warranty, if you look on the back of those things, I mean, take a look at your warranties, right? You probably have these from different contracts, is the fine print. The fine print will that's how we limit their liability. And we could go on and talk about this extensively, but we actually have a whole course and a workshop about how do you evaluate warranties and some things to think about with that, right? The point of this is that we can't say, well, if we have problems here, we'll just go to the warranty or we'll just go back to the contract. That doesn't guarantee high. That is reactive after we've got problems in the first place. And just some things about with roofing, last thing I'll say about this, I get kind of excited about roofing. I don't know why, but things to think about this. For your next roofing job, if you want it to go better, ask for a list of past customers. Don't use warranty period as a selection criteria. What I mean is that if you're going to pick somebody on the basis that, well, they're all going to offer you a 50-year warranty, which I've actually seen before, not good. There's no correlation to long-term performance. So check out our friends at SimpliArt. They have a white paper. Go on there, and you can take a look at that. Right? So kind of to wrap things up here with the teaching moment, relying on the contract. I think when you think about like low bid, for example, or contracts, sometimes low bid or other types of projects go really well, and other times it doesn't. The performance is inconsistent. The other thing here too is that, like I said, contracts don't prevent problems. They just assess penalties after the fact, liquidated damages. How many of you, or maybe you know of colleagues that say, well, you know what we're going to do? This project is really important, so we're going to go ahead and increase our LDs, our liquidated damages. If we just penalize them so much here, that will motivate them to do a better job in the first place. And there's only so much pain and suffering you can inflict before it's not going to work, right? I mean, LDs are not a way to guarantee that high level performance that we want in the first place. And lastly, the third thing I'll say too here is that contracts are a reactive document. They only come into play here, like I said, after we've already seen different issues that are going to come up with this. Right? Okay, so let me need somebody here. There we go. Okay, so 3 recommendations, and Brian, I don't know if you can mute Terry Todd for me, please. So 3 recommendations for our contract. First off is focus on hiring experts, people that know what they're doing, high performance service providers. Things that do make a difference are things like their ability to identify risk, their ability to bring in the actual people that are doing the work, and things that don't make a difference in terms of our ability to identify experts is like resumes, marketing documents. I mean, there's just not, it's a lot of effort and it really doesn't do anything for us to improve the overall value. The second thing here too is that we talk about a client of choice. That's a big phrase that throughout CP we've talked about a lot. It's not just words. If we're going to be that client of choice and really be a top-notch professional procurement organization, we actually need to do that. So fair procurements, open, transparent, we tell people what we're going to do, and then we stick to it. Value and, of course, integrity. And thirdly, is that the contract should be the result of a thorough upfront planning. Don't sign the contract unless you've actually sat down, clarified what the plan is going to be, and then we sign the contract. That is my very strong recommendation. Don't sign anything until you actually want to do that. What I've seen a lot of the time, especially with very large projects that have been a lot of headaches, that there is a rush to sign the contract as soon as we can. The evaluators are excited, procurement's excited, the contractor's excited. Everybody wants to get to sign that contract because we all feel emotionally that this is a good thing to move forward with. And I strongly, strongly recommend you don't do that until we've actually had those difficult conversations, right? So to wrap things up here with our Black Lion, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. As it turns out with this Black Lion, I couldn't let it go. My kids have told me about this. This is incredible. I've seen black bears, black snakes, all sorts of things, but never a black lion. And what it turns out here is that the whole thing is fake. I did some sleuthing, and this is what we found out. It's a Photoshop, right? Black lions don't exist out in the wild, right? So as you look at contracts, if you're expecting the fact that, well, this will save us at the end of the day, it seems too good to be true, but we have a great contract that's going to take care of it. My encouragement to you today is to understand the contract for what it is, a necessary thing that we have to do. But if you're expecting that to guarantee and minimize risk on the project, it's not going to do that for us. Hire people that know what they're doing.
This has been Ask the RFP Doctor, brought to you by the Center for Procurement Excellence.